Hi, my name is Master Chief Corpsman Ron Mosbaugh. The story I'm going to tell is my first story that I wrote. It's called In the Eye of the Battle. It tells of the trauma that I endured in Vietnam. After I tell my story, I hope you will have a better idea of why warriors have PTSD. The story is called In the Eye of the Battle. In 1963, I was a senior in high school. I was a senior class president and an all-state basketball player. I played football, ran track, just like thousands of kids across the country. We were poor growing up, but we were a good Christian family. We were not exposed to trauma on our TV stations, and we said our daily prayers and pledge of allegiance each morning in our schools. We lived in a state of innocence. Our house and car were never locked. In short, life was good. The old adage, what a difference a day makes, definitely applies to my life. One day I was in high school, and 800 days later, I was on the front lines in Vietnam. What happened was like a horror story. It's hard to comprehend. What had I got myself into? Would someone please shake me and wake me up? I was having a bad nightmare. I was too young to vote, but old enough to die for my country. Why was this happening? Not many days ago, I was living a life of innocence, and now I'm living in hell itself. My first trauma happened when I graduated from Corpsman School in Great Lakes, Illinois. I was transferred to Oakland Naval Hospital, which was also called Oakdale. It was a facility that treated veterans who had lost their arms, their legs from the war in Vietnam. They also fitted prostheses for these veterans. Many of these guys were my age, and their lives were changed forever. Other military hospitals treated burns, blindness, loss of hearing, disfigurement, paraplegic, quadriplegics. Well, you get the idea. I saw firsthand how these soldiers experienced the psychological, the physical, the emotional trauma that they encountered in a war zone. Seeing these wounded soldiers made me realize the seriousness of the war. I knew that within a few months I would be leaving for Vietnam. Corpsmen were in high demand. The recruiter didn't tell me the shortfalls of my enlistment. For several months at the hospital, I pondered the situation I was about to encounter. I didn't want to be one of the casualties. I felt fear, apprehension, loneliness. My whole life seemed out of control. It's weird, but the thought of dying didn't bother me as much as losing a limb or becoming disfigured. It's hard to believe that all this happened 48 years ago. I was faced with death on a daily basis for 13 months. I was attached to the 1st Marine Division, 2nd Battalion Hotel Company as an 8404 field corpsman. I endured trauma to its fullest. I have suffered post-traumatic stress disorder and Agent Orange for all these years. I mentioned that this happened 48 years ago, but that statement is very misleading. When one talks about PTSD, time is a misnomer. It has no relevance. The last thing I want is for people to feel sorry for me. The story is not about me, but about the thousands of veterans who came back to the civilian world and endured the same mental trauma that I endured to this day. At age 19, I witnessed atrocities that no one should witness at any age. It was a gruesome and horrifying experience. Emotionally, I was wounded for life. I re-examined distressing moments over and over. You don't know what fear is until you look at the eyes of the enemy, standing 20 feet away from you with a gun in his hand. You know that your death could be seconds away. For 13 months, I wondered if that day would be my last day on earth. For 48 years, I still live Vietnam on a daily basis. The thoughts never leave me. All I have to do is close my eyes, and I'm back on the front lines. I can still smell burned bodies, blood flowing from wounds, grass huts burning, the stench of the rice paddies, the smoke from the weapons, bombs, the grenades, diesel fuel, Vietnamese people, the trains, and the list goes on. I can still see Marines and Viet Cong being killed and wounded daily. Vietnamese being killed standing in front of me, and Marines being killed or wounded next to me are from a short distance away. I see helicopters transporting troops or coming in for a medevac to pick up the Marine that were either wounded or killed in action. I see jets flying over and bombing entire villages. I see Marines who have stepped on landmines, changing their lives forever. Many were killed instantly. I see the pain of a Marine who landed in a pit filled with sharpened bamboo spikes called bungee stakes. I think you get the idea of what I witnessed. I can still see the ashen color of a Marine's face who was about to die. His eyes showed terror, fear, and shock. These are memories that will haunt me forever. I can still hear the sound of wounded Marine yelling in pain from wounds inflicted by the enemy, the terror of a dying man's voice, or his last words of a Marine who knows that he's going to die or wants to die is beyond words. A corpsman or medic's job was one of the most dangerous in Vietnam. When a soldier was wounded, it was our job to administer first aid, no matter where on the field he was hit. If a Marine was in the middle of a rice paddy, it made no difference. This is why so many corpsmen and medics were either killed or wounded in action. Many people have experienced PTSD, but not to the extent of a war veteran. Sometimes we have flashbacks from bad experiences we haven't thought about for years. Once a person has PTSD, he or she will have it for the rest of their lives. It can be treated, but it never totally goes away. Before each patrol, the commanding officer told us where we were going and what we could expect. Often I would look around at the Marines, wondering who would not return. In my 13 months in Vietnam, I treated over 200 Marines. So I knew we were going to lose many of them. I made it a habit not to get close to any of them, because I didn't want to lose a good friend. The only problem is that this attitude stayed with me throughout my life. I have never wanted to get close to anyone. On September 19th, 1966, we were overran by the Viet Cong. Many were engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Everywhere I looked, I saw killed and wounded Marines and Viet Cong. The operation started with around 90 Marines. Only 26 of us walked out of that. I did a lot of triage that day. I received a Silver Star for that operation, and a few weeks later, I received the Bronze Star with a Combat V. I only mention this to confirm the trauma that we encountered. When I returned to the United States, I was a different person. The old person was now mere acquaintances. My old friends were mere acquaintances. I felt like an outsider or a visitor from another planet. I still find myself alone in the crowd. Most civilians do understand the warrior. They have never danced with death. After several years as county clerk, I was forced to retire due to stress and other health problems. I never won the battle against the demons. A few weeks after retirement, I was admitted to the VA medical facility in Topeka, Kansas. This was a 7-week in-house treatment facility for PTSD. I was to the point in my life that I prayed to God that I would have a heart attack and go away. For 5 years, I have attended walk-in session at Mount Vernon VA Medical Facility, because doing so reminds me that I am not the only one who experienced the emotions that I feel. I can talk about any problem, and other veterans understand. The dirty little secret is that many veterans come home unable to actually feel their feelings. We had to numb up and shut down our fears. The problem is that we became so numb that we cannot feel much of anything. We became battle-hardened. And we don't feel soft, tender feelings. That's bad news for our loved ones. Many of us who were in combat have purple hearts, but not all wounds are visible. There are no unwounded soldiers in war. We all suffer PTSD. Never were Shakespearean's word truer than, He who sheds his blood with me to this day is my brother. God bless you all. Thank you very much.